Good afternoon. How is everybody today? It's time for our reading, and today we are in the category of the law. And I wanted to be sure and ask a question as we went into the reading for today, being, and this is the 23rd of April, 2020. Being that this is the category called the law, I want to ask a question. When we say the law, what law are we referring to specifically? And hello, Vic, and hello, Kimber. I'm just going to give you a moment to answer that question before we begin. What law? Anyone? Hello, Celinda. Hello, Evelyn. Okay, Kimber has answered the question basically. All right, we'll need a little clarification, however. Celinda and Evelyn, I asked the question because today's category is the law. What does that mean when we say the law? Yes, Vic, the Mosaic Law, except yours is a song as you wrote it. It says musical. They had music too. They had lots of psalms. Anyway, okay, Mosaic, yes. And that's important because we want to understand in this reading today, there's something that comes that's a new thing. It's called the Sabbath. That is the law of the Sabbath. It was given specifically to the Israelite people. It was not given to any other people previous to that. Yes, Mosaic Law was not given to anyone after that. And that's very important for us to understand because sometimes, well, a lot of times today, things get confused trying to apply things from the Mosaic Law under the New Covenant, the law of Christ, the dispensation of the church, and the kingdom of Christ. And there are some problems with that. So just wanted to make that point before we get into our reading today. So our reading is in the book of Exodus, chapters 13 through 16 of the book of Exodus. And I forgot to turn this other light on, so I'm going to do that. Okay. All right. Okay, chapter 13 of Exodus. The Lord said to Moses, "Consecrate to me all the firstborn, whatever is the first to open the womb among the people of Israel, both of man and of beast is mine." Then Moses said to the people, "Remember this day in which you came out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, for by a strong hand the Lord brought you out from this place. No leavened bread shall be eaten. Today in the month of Abib you are going out, and when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you shall keep this service in this month. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a feast to the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten for 7 days. No leavened bread shall be seen with you, and no leaven shall be seen with you in all your territory. You shall tell your son on that day, 'It is because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt, and it shall be to you as a sign on your hand and as a memorial between your eyes, that the law of the Lord may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand the Lord has brought you out of Egypt. You shall therefore keep this statute at its appointed time from year to year. When the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your fathers, and shall give it to you, you shall set apart to the Lord all that first opens the womb, All the firstborn of your animals that are males shall be the Lord's. Every firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb, or if you will not redeem it, you shall break its neck. Every firstborn of man among your sons you shall redeem, and when in time to come your son asks you, what does this mean? You shall say to him, by a strong hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt, from the house of slavery. For when Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, the Lord killed all the firstborn of the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of animals. That therefore I sacrifice to the Lord all the males that first open the womb, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. It shall be as a mark on your hand or frontlets between your eyes, for by a strong hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt. Whoops. I'm trying to play with this light here. I think that's better. Hey, Dan. Hey, Rena. Rena Byers is watching. Rena Byers is still listening. Okay, so that was 13:1 through 16. Continuing on in Exodus 13 now with verse 17. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. And the people of Israel went up out of the land of Egypt, equipped for battle. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for Joseph had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones with you from here. Now that's good to note. We saw that when Joseph was second in command under Pharaoh in the land of Egypt, and when Jacob his father died, they took a funeral procession, went back to the land of Canaan, buried Jacob there, and Joseph told the Israelites that when it came time for them to leave, which they were going to do at some future time, to remember his desire to be buried with his fathers as well. And so this is what they're doing. It's good to notice that they remembered some things. We know that they forgot a lot of things when it came to the knowledge of the Lord, but they did remember to fulfill this desire of Joseph, and so they took his bones out. And again, I will just mention, I've referenced several times the book by David Rohl called Pharaohs and Kings, and you can look this up. David Rohl, his last name is R-O-H-L, and when they found the tomb of Joseph, and he had a grand tomb like fit for a pharaoh, but when they opened the sarcophagus that was sealed, had signature on there to say that that's where his body was, well, it was empty. Well, because we just read why. They took his bones out. They took them home to be buried with his fathers. All right, verse 29 of 13. And they moved on from Succoth and encamped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness, and the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them along the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, that they might travel by day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night did not depart from before the people. Chapter 14. Then the Lord said to Moses, tell the people of Israel to turn back and encamp in front of Pi-Hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, in front of Baal-Zephon. You shall encamp facing it by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the people of Israel, they are wandering in the land, the wilderness has shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. And I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his host, and the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. And they did so. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, the mind of Pharaoh and his servants was changed toward the people. And they said, What is this that we have done? We have let Israel go from serving us. So he made ready his chariot, and took his army with him, and took 600 chosen chariots, and all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the people of Israel, while the people of Israel were going out defiantly. The Egyptians pursued them, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, and his horsemen, and his army, and overtook them, encamped at the sea by Pi-hahiroth, in front of Baal-zephon. When Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly. And the people cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, Is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Is not this what we said to you in Egypt? Leave us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. And Moses said to the people, Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians, whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent. Hello, Michael. Verse 15, the Lord said to Moses, Why do you cry to me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward. Lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, that the people of Israel may go through the sea on dry ground. And I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, so that they shall go in after them, and I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his host, his chariots and his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten glory over Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen. Then the angel of God, who was going before the host of Israel, moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them, coming between the host of Egypt and the host of Israel. And there was the cloud and the darkness, and it lit up the night, without one coming near the other all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the people of Israel went into the middle of the sea on dry ground, the waters being a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went in after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And in the morning watch, the Lord in the pillar of fire and of cloud looked down on the Egyptian forces and threw the Egyptian forces into a panic, clogging their chariot wheels so that they drove heavily. And the Egyptians said, Let us flee from before Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians. Then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the water may come back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its normal course. When the morning appeared, and as the Egyptians fled into it, the Lord threw the Egyptians into the midst of the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all of the host of Pharaoh that had followed them into the sea. Not one of them remained. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground through the sea, the waters being a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel saw the great power that the Lord used against the Egyptians. So the people feared the Lord, and they believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. Amen, Dan. Good reading for the times today. Faith is necessary in all times. Amen. Hello, Jerry Collins. Good to see you. That was the end of chapter 14 of Exodus. Now we're ready for chapter 15. This is where Moses sings the song, and Miriam also sings a song, teaches the people to sing the song that Moses sang, and we'll read that part next. 15 verse 1. Then Moses and the people of Israel sang this song to the Lord, saying, I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him, my father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his host he cast into the sea, and his chosen officers were sunk in the Red Sea. The floods covered them. They went down into the depths like a stone. Your right hand, O Lord, glorious in power, your right hand, O Lord, shatters the enemy. In the greatness of your majesty, you overthrow your adversaries and send out your fury. It consumes them like stubble. At the blast of your nostrils, the waters piled up. The flood stood up in a heap. The deep congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil, my desire shall have its fill of them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them. You blew with your wind, the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glorious deeds, doing wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. You have led in your steadfast love the people whom you have redeemed. You have guided them by your strength to your holy abode. The peoples have heard, they tremble. Pangs have seized the inhabitants of Philistia. Now are the chiefs of Edom dismayed. Trembling seizes the leaders of Moab. All the inhabitants of Canaan have melted away. Terror and dread fall upon them. Because of the greatness of your arm, they are still as a stone. Till your people, O Lord, pass by. Till the people pass by whom you have purchased. You will bring them in and plant them on your own mountain, the place, O Lord, which you have made for your abode, the sanctuary, O Lord, which your hands have established. The Lord will reign forever. True words and very powerful words. Sue Reddy says, he delivered his people then, he will deliver us too, Lord willing. Amen. I was thinking at the latter part of that when it's talking about how the fear of the Lord and his people would be throughout all of Canaan, the Philistines, the Edomites, the Moabites, and that was true. When we get much later to the story of the fall of the city of Jericho, it's clear that the people know about all these things, the people of the land. Janie Reno, hello. And so if they had gone in this attitude from this moment, they would have just marched right in and taken Canaan. But of course, that didn't happen quite that way. But this was a high moment when they were all together on this. Verse 19. For when the horses of Pharaoh with his chariots and his horsemen went into the sea, the Lord brought back the waters of the sea upon them, but the people of Israel walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea. Then Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went after her with tambourines and dancing. And Miriam sang to them, Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea. And if you recall, we just read those lyrics just a couple of minutes ago. And so she was having the people sing the song that Moses had just sung and taught to them. Yes, Linda Ramsey says, word traveled fast of the Lord's protection. Yes, it did. All right, but people being what they are, we have some more to read here. Verse 22 of chapter 15. Then Moses made Israel set out from the Red Sea, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. They went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink the water of Marah because it was bitter. Therefore it was named Marah. You might remember that name later. Naomi says, don't call me Naomi anymore, call me Marah. Marah means bitter. So the water was no good in the place. After 3 days of no water, the water they find is not good. And so obviously the people are going to be restless. The people grumbled against Moses, saying, what shall we drink? And he cried to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a log. And he threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. There the Lord made for them a statute and a rule, and there he tested them, saying, if you will diligently listen to the voice of the Lord your God, and do that which is right in his eyes, and give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you that I put on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord your healer. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the water. People are being educated by the Lord, and they are people, and they have their weaknesses and their foibles. And he has just given them this opportunity to see his power again, changing the bitter water to sweet so they could drink, and then reminding them, remember what I did to the Egyptians? If you obey me and always do what I say, you won't have any of those things happen to you. Later on, if you look at the cursings and the blessings, basically we see that those kinds of things that befell the Egyptians for their disobedience, those are in the cursings. The blessings, everything opposite of that, everything glorious and wonderful. That's how he dealt with them. What a comfort in his word. Yes, indeed, Sue. Chapter 16, this is the last chapter for our reading for today. And this is the chapter where we find the institution of the Sabbath. And it has to do with when the Lord gave them bread from heaven, the manna. They set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the people of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month, after they had departed from the land of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the people of Israel said to them, would that we had died by the hand of the Lord in Egypt, when we sat by the meat pots and ate bread to the full. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. I remember one day when I came in from playing, I'd been playing hard, and I was hungry. I was very, very hungry. My mother was cooking supper, but I knew that unless I received some nourishment right now, I was going to die. I was convinced I was going to die. I pleaded with my mother. I begged her. I said, just a peanut butter sandwich. I promise I won't let it spoil my supper. But she told me I had to wait. And so, just like these Israelites, I slumped against the refrigerator and just allowed my body to slide down on the floor, and I just waited to die. I was convinced I was going to die. Verse 4. Then the Lord said to Moses, behold, I am about to rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them, whether they will walk in my law or not. On the 6th day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather daily. Now here's your clue about the institution of the Sabbath. So Moses and Aaron said to all the people of Israel, "At evening you shall know that it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your grumbling against the Lord. For what are we that you grumble against us?" And Moses said, "When the Lord gives you in the evening meat to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, because the Lord has heard your grumbling, that you grumble against him, what are we? Your grumbling is not against us, but against the Lord." Then Moses said to Aaron, "Say to the whole congregation of the people of Israel, 'Come near before the Lord, for he has heard your grumbling.'" And as soon as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the people of Israel, they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And the Lord said to Moses, "I have heard the grumbling of the people of Israel. Say to them, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread. Then you shall know that I am the Lord your God." In the evening quail came up and covered the camp, and in the morning dew lay around the camp. And when the dew had gone up, there was on the face of the wilderness a fine flake-like thing, fine as frost on the ground. When the people of Israel saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" And that's what manna means. Manna means, what is it? What is it? For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, "It is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Gather of it, each of you, as much as he can eat. You shall take each an omer, according to the number of the persons that each of you has in his tent." And the people of Israel did so. They gathered some more, some less. But when they measured it with an omer, whoever gathered much had nothing left over, and whoever gathered little had no lack. Each of them gathered as much as he could eat. And Moses said to them, "Let no one leave any of it over until the morning." But they did not listen to Moses. Some left part of it till the morning, and it bred worms and stank. And Moses was angry with them. Morning by morning they gathered it, each as much as he could eat. But when the sun grew hot, it melted. Hello, Christina. So here's the beginning of this lesson. They were to gather each morning, only enough for that day. If they tried to save over some for the next day, what happened? It rotted. It was full of worms. Now, he told them not to gather more than they needed, and he warned them about this, but people being like they are, there's going to be people that are going to say, well, okay, maybe we'll just see. We'll just see if it lasts until the morning. But it didn't. And that was that was expected. This was anticipated by God. We can't outmaneuver God. We can't outthink him. And so that actually now will help later on for what's going to happen when the words about the Sabbath are given. Yes, another lesson for today. Okay, now, verse 22. Michael Salee says, "No difference between the children of Israel and with Adam and Eve. They would not listen and wanted more, as many children and adults who never grow up. If they had listened, how blessed they would be." And I'll have to read the rest of that later. Yes, Sue, toilet paper is a perfect example. Oh, that just brought out the worst in people, didn't it? Okay, now we will continue. Verse 22 of chapter 16. Hello, Cousin Stacy. Exodus 16:22. On the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers each. And when all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, he said to them, "This is what the Lord has commanded." So here it is. This is the first time. It's easy for us to miss this, and we can talk about this more in detail, maybe sometime in a study. But this is really this is the giving of the Sabbath commandment. This is when that happens. All right. Let me start again there. Let's see. He said to them, this is 23, he said to them, this is what the Lord has commanded. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you will bake, and boil what you will boil, and all that is left over lay aside to be kept till the morning. See, this is part of the support for the lesson. On a normal day, you were not supposed to save over for the next day. But on the evening of what we would call Friday, they would keep over, they'd take enough for Friday, what we call Friday, to get them through Saturday. And then what they kept over would be fine. It wouldn't spoil like on the other days, because this is the Lord's doing. So, it's a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you will bake, and boil what you will boil, and all that is left over lay aside to be kept till the morning. So they laid it aside till the morning, as Moses commanded them. And it did not stink, and there were no worms in it. Moses said, eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. Here, that's another thing that we'll notice something about here. You won't find it in the field. So you better prepare double on Friday, because if you don't, you're going to go hungry on Saturday. Eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is a Sabbath, there will be none. And on the 7th day, some of the people went out to gather, but they found none. Hello, Nancy. Hello, Ronald. Hello, Ricky. And the Lord said to Moses, how long will you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? See, the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore, on the 6th day, he gives you bread for 2 days. Remain each of you in his place. Let no one go out of his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day. So, again, to be expected, this was a new thing. And just like when he gave them, when he told them about gathering the manna, only gather enough for today. If you try to gather double and hold it over till tomorrow, it'll rot. Some of the people said, well, okay, we'll find out about that. And they found out. It rotted. Then he says, now this is going to be different, because I'm giving you this commandment. The Sabbath is going to be a day of rest. I don't want you working and gathering on that day. This is the first that he's given them this. And again, it has to be tested. People just go out and they, instead of saying, what is it? They say, where is it? Because it's not there. Now, verse 31, now the house of Israel called its name manna. It was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. I have a theory about that. If you like baklava, I think probably this is where that idea came from. The description fits. Moses said, this is what the Lord has commanded. Let an omer of it be kept throughout your generations, so that they may see the bread with which I fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you out of the land of Egypt. And Moses said to Aaron, take a jar, and put an omer of manna in it, and place it before the Lord to be kept throughout your generations. And the Lord commanded Moses. So Aaron placed it before the testimony to be kept. The people of Israel ate the manna 40 years, till they came to a habitable land. They ate the manna till they came to the border of the land of Canaan. An omer is like a 10th part of an ephah. Now, it doesn't really... Yeah, Dan says, I wondered how many went hungry that day. Yeah, I do too. So I think the inference is that the quail would be there in the evening, and then the manna would be there in the morning. So they had a steady diet of quail meat and manna for 40 years. So, yeah, again, later on when they say, oh, I wish we had some onions, I wish we had some cucumbers. Yeah, but it was good, perfect nutritional food from the Lord. I don't know what was contained in that manna, but I'm sure it was highly nutritious. Hello, Marcia. Let's see, Michael Salee, listen to the ox in the ditch. Can get him out, but do not push him in the day before. Okay. Well, thank you all. This is the conclusion of the reading for today. We have been reading Exodus 13 through 16 today in the category called the Law. And look forward to seeing you tomorrow at this same time, 2 p.m. for the reading. We do the readings Monday through Saturday, 2 p.m. Then we do on Sunday morning, we have 8:30 in the morning, a study currently looking at the types and the antitype study. And then on Sundays, we do the reading at 3 p.m. so that we can attend other online meetings throughout the rest of the day. And also Wednesday morning at 10, we do a study of the book of Luke. So, hello, Tom Sizemore. Glad you tuned in. So we're ready to wrap up for today. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a blessed day. I love you, and you are in my thoughts and prayers. Hang in there. Talk to you soon. Bye.